Wonderhussy here, and today I'm in one of my all-time favorite odd places, the Salton Sea. If you've never heard of it, the Salton Sea, forgive the light, it's going to be kind of harsh behind me here, is this giant lake way down in the southern, or I guess southeasternmost part of California, not far from the Mexican border, and it's the biggest lake in California. That's right, I said the biggest lake in California, but you maybe haven't even heard of it. I mean, everybody knows Lake Tahoe, Lake Arrowhead, all them pretty lakes, but the Salton Sea down here is actually the biggest lake of them all. So you're probably wondering, if this lake is so beautiful and huge, why has no one heard of it? Well, I'll tell you. It's because this lake is one of the creepiest, grossest, most toxic environments around. Okay, it's not exactly toxic. I don't want to come off as one of these ruin porn junkies that comes out here and bags on the Salton Sea, because in my opinion it's still completely beautiful. It doesn't smell very good. If you had smell-o-vision, you'd be smelling nothing but rotting fish and decay. But that's not really because the lake is toxic or the sea. It's more complicated than that. It's a accidental sea that was created by a flood back in the early 1900s, and it was originally just a sink, like a big dry lake bed. Now, back in prehistoric days, it was a lake, but it hadn't been for hundreds of years until this flood in around 1905. They were trying to irrigate this valley, which, by the way, it's a desert valley. I don't know why anybody ever wanted to grow crops down here, but they decided to irrigate it, and they built these irrigation canals from the Colorado River, tapped into that to irrigate all their fields. Well, there was a big storm one year, and the canals overflowed and poured into that old Salton sink and created another lake. And even though it looks actually beautiful from a distance, when you zoom in up close on the details, that's where it gets interesting. It's not really sand on the shore. It's little bits of teeth and bones and fish tails. Look at that, it's so creepy. So why are there so many dead fish in this lake if it's not toxic? Well, because it's an accidental lake, or a sea that was created by accident. There's no natural streams feeding it. So the only way it stays full of water is from agricultural runoff from all the farms in the area. So it's pretty much solely fed by, there's hardly any rainfall down here, so a minuscule amount of rainfall, and agricultural runoff, which runs through the fields, runs through the fertilizer, picks up all kind of nitrites and salt and whatever all they put in fertilizer, and that all drains down into the sea and creates a kind of somewhat harsh environment. I mean, you can see here there's tons of seagulls out here. They love it. And all those fish bones are tilapia. There's a ton of tilapia in here. And I guess they just sort of periodically die off in mass waves because the chemical balance in the water is off because of all the agricultural runoff. I think that creates some kind of algae blooms because it's so friggin' hot down here. I mean, we are in the desert 50 miles north of Mexico, so it's really, I mean, look, it's January 2nd, and I'm standing here in shorts and a tank top, so that should give you an idea. It's probably 90 degrees today, and in the summer it gets up to like 130 degrees. So between the heat and whatever's in the water, it creates these algae blooms, I think, that cause these mass tilapia die-offs. So that's why the beach is made up of bones and bits of creepiness, and why it smells so funky out here. But it wasn't always that way. I mean, back in the 50s, 60s, this was actually a really nice lake. I mean, I guess the water hadn't quite gotten so salty or full of minerals yet, and it was kind of like a resort area for the people from Palm Springs. Palm Springs isn't really that far from here, maybe an hour. So the wealthy jet set from Hollywood used to come out here to the Salton Sea for water sports. Water skiing, boating, fishing, just hanging out in the sun. I mean, it was considered to be something of a Riviera back in the day, believe it or not. And to accommodate all these visiting jet setters from Palm Springs and LA, they built a bunch of motels and resorts along the edges of this sea. I mean, look at a map sometime. It's a really big inland sea. So there was a lot of shoreline around it. And I guess if you look at old photos and documentaries back in the day, there was all kind of cool motels out here. And you can still see to this day the remains of some of the piers and foundations out here. I mean, in the distance there is some kind of a jetty. It must have been really nice. I mean, I'm sure it was beautiful. Like, you come out here on this pier, have a sunset cocktail looking out of this amazing sea back before it smelled terrible. I mean, no wonder the birds like it so much out here. It's like a big buffet. I don't think the fact that these fish are dead bothers the birds. Or wait a minute, maybe it does, because look. It's a dead bird too. Holy crap, look at his little beak. Huh? Maybe the birds get sick from eating this fish? Yikes. So, contributing to the smell of dead and rotting fish is the smell of dead, rotting birds. Anyway, I'm here right now in one of the little towns that sprung up around the Salton Sea, where I guess back in the day there were a ton of resorts and restaurants and, you know, very glamorous stuff. It's called Bombay Beach. And there's really not much left now. Unfortunately, once the fish started dying off and the lake started smelling and drying up, well, all the resorts dried up, and that caused the local economy to dry up. And now, pretty much all you see out here are abandoned houses. It's actually really sad because a lot of people sunk their life savings into buying property out here. And, you know, they didn't know the lake was going to turn toxic, or not toxic, but they didn't know the lake was going to go rancid and the economy was going to dry up and they'd be stuck living in this creepy post-apocalyptic hell. I mean, dang. Can you imagine? You thought you were buying a piece of the American dream to retire down in the warm desert. And this happens. And what's even sadder is that there's still a lot of people who still live out here. They either can't afford to move or they don't want to move. Maybe they just like it here and they remember, you know, the good old days how it used to be. So driving around this town, you'll see, like, I don't know, maybe 1 out of every 10 houses is occupied. And there's somebody hanging in here with little flamingos set out and astroturf and trying to make a go of it. Peek inside one of these houses just to see. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of urbex people from LA that come out here, graffiti artists and just kind of ruin porn enthusiasts. So there's really not going to be much left for us to poke through in any of these places. But just kind of a cool overview of the area. I mean, all around the border of the Salton Sea, there's little towns like this. I just happen to be at Bombay Beach. And Bombay Beach, I feel like it's one of the most, the strongest communities out here. Like, the people who live here are still kind of hanging in together. Wow. I don't even know what that said, but that's kind of a metaphor for this place. Anyway, like I was saying, there's still a lot of people hanging on out here, and Bombay Beach in particular has a really cool kind of sense of community. I mean, there's a few businesses still in town. There's a bar called the Ski Inn, like a bar and restaurant, where my friends and I actually went for New Year's Eve. Well, during the day we went and had burgers and drinks, and it's a great little bar, really friendly people. And then there's a couple of little markets as well. But other than that, man, there's not really anything in the way of businesses here. You have to drive quite a way to go, like, grocery shopping or do anything like that. But the vibe at the Ski Inn, that's the name of the little bar that we went to, the vibe there was really solid, really cozy. It kind of seems like the kind of community where people really look out for each other. I mean, I guess you really have to in a place like this, because there's a lot of squatters that kind of hang out in this general area. There's a place called Slab City, not too far away from here, that's a known squatter's paradise. It attracts kind of a criminal element. And I don't know, it also kind of looks like the kind of place where there was probably a lot of meth problems. So you really do need to keep an eye out for each other if you live out here. But wow, I mean, if you're into abandoned buildings, this is your Disneyland. Look at all these abandoned friggin' houses. It's really sad. Here's my favorite graffiti in the entire city of Bombay Beach, right here. Now, what do you think that means? Jeb Bush. It's like an old Jeb Bush campaign poster. Wow, weird. But like any bombed out, post-apocalyptic, affordable place in the desert, anywhere within spitting distance of LA or the Bay Area, this place too is getting infested with hipster artists. Look at this cool drive-in that these people did here. I think there's like an art festival out here every Easter weekend called the Bombay Beach Bienniale. They call it a biennial, but I think it's every year. You know, those hipster artists with their snarky senses of humor. And I think this might have been a piece that was created for that festival. It's really cool. These old cars parked like they're getting ready to watch the movie. It's really neat. I wonder where they got some of these cars. Like, look at these. These are these old Metropolitans. Remember those? Little two-tone. And then look at this one. So cool. I saw one that looked almost exactly like this one in Vegas at the Fashion Show Mall, but the guy had it all restored. It was cherry. Beautiful. But, you know, maybe you're not into the old Metropolitan. Maybe you're more into the 70s muscle cars. This might be more your speed. I don't know if that really qualifies as a muscle car. If that doesn't, then this certainly does, this orange one. Now, I don't know much about cars, but I'm sure everybody watching this video, or many of the people watching this video, will know what these are. Some kind of old muscle car. Look at this old Beetle. This looks like an old, boy, Cadillac? I don't know what that one was. And then look at this. This one's not quite as vintage, but it's got an interesting paint job. Some kind of minivan. And then this is some kind of old SUV. Here we got some kind of, boy, don't know what that was. Ford station wagon. Old bread truck. Look at this. Oh, this must be from like a carnival ride, or I don't know what this was. It's got a center console and cup holders. And then the drive-in screen is just a big trailer, blank white side of a trailer. Hey, but that works just fine. Look at this one though. Look at this car. Okay guys, tell me what this is. I thought it was a gremlin at first, but it's not. It's a pacer. Whoa, look at this. Old race car from Mexico. Got a piss jug on the center console, ready to go. Everything's been picked clean out of here that was of any use. Crazy. Yeah, it's really creepy. If you listen, there's like kids playing over there. You can kind of see a swing set in that backyard in the distance. Like I said, there's still a lot of people that are hanging in here and raising families. Oh, look at this old Benz. That's why I can't, you know, disparage this place. I feel like this is as good a place to live as any. I mean, it sucks that all the people moved out, and as a result, they probably don't have much tax money to work with to keep things clean and tidy. But all it would take was, I mean, I make snarky remarks about these hipster artists, but at least they're coming in and trying to fix stuff up in their own way. I gotta say, I really wouldn't mind living here. I mean, I think the smell, over here you don't really smell anything bad. It's mostly out by the water. And it is hot, I mean really hot, but I'm used to hot weather. I don't know, I just feel like it would be a solid place to create a community. Although I'm not sure the old timers who live here would welcome new people moving in. I wonder that about a lot of these old desert towns that I go to. Like, do they want fresh blood coming in, or do they resent fresh blood coming in? I mean, at some point you have to have fresh blood, because otherwise your town's gonna die out. I mean, are you that spiteful that you just want the town to die rather than change? I don't know. Look at this old VW bus. How cool is this? Go into the back seat of a VW bus at the drive-in. Good girls didn't used to do that. Good girls would stay in the front seat. Wow, this van's probably worth some money. I wonder how many babies were created in the backseat of all these cars. I mean, if not at this drive-in, then certainly at another one. Those were the days, though, going to the drive-in. You can't even really do that anymore. There is a drive-in in Vegas, but it's pretty ghetto, and I don't know, movies anymore are so lame, I can't be bothered to go. But it would be kind of fun to do that. Maybe I should plan a drive-in night. Keep the drive-in alive. Oh, look, here's my chance. I don't have to go all the way to Vegas for the drive-in. They actually show movies at the Bombay Beach Drive-In, or at least they did on Saturday, April 15th, 2017. But I think that was Easter weekend, so that's probably part of that festival I was talking about. And look, they presented this movie called The Carnival of Dreams, and it had Gary Oldman in it. Slab City, Bombay Beach, Salton Sea, all these places were in it, and Gary Oldman, so must have had some kind of a budget. I've never heard of it, though, The Carnival of Dreams. Oh, that's cool, but they played it at 9 p.m. at that little drive-in. Wow, that would be so friggin' cool to go see a movie at this drive-in. The only bummer is, if you've watched, I have another video called Freedom Days, which is a really cool festival in Ballarat Ghost Town out in Death Valley. That's the same weekend as this Bombay Beach bienniale. I really want to go to both. Why can't there be two of me? I'm not sure what I'll do this year, this Easter weekend. Should I don't know, leave me a comment, let me know. Should I come to the Bombay Beach bienniale? Or should I stick to Freedom Days? Look, here's another creepy old abandoned house. Somebody's hopes and dreams. And this place looks like it was nice. Big screened-in porch for the wintertime. It's all crumbled up now. Man, look how big the kitchen was. They had these huge windows looking out. Oh, man. Yeah, for some reason, I go to a lot of abandoned places, but this town makes me really sad. Mostly because, I mean, I watched an old documentary that they interviewed a lot of the old timers that lived here, and it really did seem like an idyllic place to live back then. I mean, it was a lot of older, retired people, but they had like a real community spirit, and they had fish fries and bingo games and, you know, group activities. Now it seems like they're all just kind of leaving. Anyway, that's Bombay Beach, a really cool, interesting town in a really cool, interesting area. And I have another video about Slab City, that squatters encampment I was talking about a minute ago. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check that out, because it's not far from here. And just kind of like this whole area is just a fascinating, forgotten corner of America. And California, no less, okay, where real estate is... You know, everybody wants to live in California. Well, you come to places like this, and it's like, this is the only part of California many of us could afford to live in. But I actually really like it, and I will definitely be back to Bombay Beach and the Salton Sea. If not for the Bombay Beach bienniale, then for something.